Hey everybody, I want to talk a little bit about a few studies that I came across over the past couple of weeks related to the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia, because I think they shed some light on both genetic and non-genetic risk factors and what level of control we might have over preventing these conditions. So let's take a look at the first study. The article here in Science Daily says missing link between Alzheimer's and vascular disease found. And basically, they talk about how scientists found a gene called FMNL2 that affects vascular health, so the health of our blood vessels. And people who have polymorphisms in this gene tended to be at higher risk for both dementia and Alzheimer's. And so the speculation is that this might explain why people with hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, or obesity, all of which are characterized by vascular abnormalities, are at higher risk for Alzheimer's and dementia. So whenever a study like this is published, I get a little bit concerned because there's already an idea out there that Alzheimer's and dementia are primarily driven by genetic factors. And this is simply not true. It is true that genes play a role, and people with certain genes are at higher risk for Alzheimer's. But even though that is the case, the majority of the risk of developing Alzheimer's and dementia still comes from environmental factors like our diet, our lifestyle, and our behavior. So I always want to point that out when I see a study like this, because my concern is that people just kind of throw up their hands and say, see, I've got these genes, I'm doomed, there's nothing that I can do about it. Well, it turns out there is actually quite a bit that can be done. We know from studies like this one that was just recently published, that having type 2 diabetes and abnormal blood sugar accelerates brain aging and cognitive decline. People who have high blood sugar are at much higher risk. Conversely, people who have normal blood sugar all the way through their lifespan are at significantly lower risk. And blood sugar is something that you have a lot of influence over. You can change your diet, you can sleep more, you can exercise more, you can manage your stress, you can improve your gut health. There's so many things that you can do to regulate your blood sugar and make sure it stays in the normal range. And that in turn will directly influence your risk of Alzheimer's and dementia later in life. And, as additional evidence for this, a study was just published this same week, and researchers found that a drug that lowers blood sugar also reduces blood vessel dysfunction that's caused by aging. And we just saw how the gene that affects vascular health, the function of our blood vessels, is associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. So this is painting a pretty clear picture here. A drug that lowers blood sugar and reduces blood vessel dysfunction, improves vascular health, also reduces the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. But you don't need a drug for that. There are many other ways that you can reduce blood sugar that we just talked about, whether you're maintaining your healthy blood sugar, if your blood sugar is normal now, or whether you're taking steps to reduce abnormally high blood sugar. There are so many powerful things that you can do that don't necessarily involve taking a medication. And the last study that was published that supports this, again, just one day later, the same week, 7 healthy habits linked to lower risk of dementia in those with genetic risk. So we are not doomed, even if we carry genes that increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Depending on the study that you look at, that increase of risk can be anywhere from 30 to 40%. But this study showed that following 7, what they called the simple 7 life habits, being active, eating better, losing weight, not smoking, maintaining healthy blood pressure, controlling cholesterol, and reducing blood sugar, can decrease your risk by at least 30 to 40% in some populations. So basically, following a healthy lifestyle cancels out the additional risk that's conferred by having certain genes. And of course, if you don't have those genes, following those healthy lifestyle habits will further reduce your baseline level of risk. So to me, this is all good news. It means that the choices that we make on a day-to-day basis in terms of what we eat, how much sleep we get, how much we move, all the things that kind of impact on our health on a day-to-day basis will have an impact on our risk of Alzheimer's and dementia later in our life. Now, this is probably not a surprise to you. It makes a lot of sense. And yet, if you follow just the mainstream news headlines, you could easily come away with the impression that you have very little control over whether you get Alzheimer's or dementia when you're older. It's largely just a question of genes and luck, is the way that it often comes off when you read these mainstream media articles. So just wanted to share this with you because I think it's really important for us to have hope and to have a sense of empowerment and influence over these really important factors that we can make choices about every day, and that can quite dramatically lower our risk of these conditions that none of us want to end up with as we get older. So I hope you enjoyed this. See you next time.